my own daughter, who works with Amazon Studios, was working with Amazon Studios until 2 months ago, is fired because she had advocated for Palestinian human rights over the course of last 5 years that she was in a group of people who were Muslims and non-Muslims, black, white, Latino, men, women of different backgrounds, and so on. They had a coalition to advocate for human rights. Why? Because Amazon provides surveillance technology to the State of Israel. So there are a lot of personal impacts done on all of us. At the global level, we see, though, the people across the world are standing up for Palestine, common people. They're getting beaten up, but still they are fighting, and they are speaking up on the streets. So at the popular level, I think consciousness toward the injustices, toward the oppression, toward the occupation of Palestine has increased exponentially. But at the state level, it's a different story. As you heard me saying in the khutbah, and I don't mind repeating it again, that every king and queen and prime minister and president and whoever in the quote-unquote power structure must be ashamed of themselves, particularly if they are Muslims. And they are, right? Those who are Khadim al-Haramain, they should be ashamed of them. They should die. They should just commit suicide or something. It makes me so angry, I can't even tell you, I don't have proper words to express, right? Because they can do a lot of stuff, they can do a lot of things, because history has shown us in 70s when the oil embargo, Allah yarhamu, King Faisal at the time, in a matter of few days brought the entire world's economy to its knees, because he had the integrity, he had the strength, he had the courage to do that. Right? Today, the same thing others can do, but they are not. On the contrary, not only that they are not doing, they are not neutral, they are supporting, and they are part of that coalition of committing genocide. That's the extent, that's the immorality of the believers has come down to. Fascinating and amazing. The bad people do what bad people do. And we feel bad about that, and we know who they are, etc., etc. But it is completely different when the people who are supposed to not do this are in fact supporting that. It's the height of jahiliyyah, frankly. But the silver lining, if any, in this is, especially in our country, more non-Muslims have stood up for Palestine in the United States than in any other place. More non-Muslims have gone to jail committing civil disobedience, protesting against Palestine than any other place. And as recently as a few weeks ago that some of us may have read and saw that this US Air Force active officer who self-immolated himself in front of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. Non-Muslim. Because the extent of inhumanity and brutality and barbarism is so much that people of conscience don't want to be part of that. Some people. Not that all of us should go and burn ourselves, but that shows the silver lining I'm talking about is the awareness about the injustices that our country is committing so blatantly, so openly, so brazenly, so shamelessly that people can't hide now anymore. Right? Many months ago, I think I gave a khutbah here saying that we stood up for people in Ukraine that when it was invaded by Russia, rightfully so. And we spoke up, we condemned. Great. On the other hand, when it comes to Palestine, not only that we are not condemning, we are supplying continually arms and weapons to the oppressor. So hypocrisy has exposed itself completely, and that's, and I hope that will, in long term, will help, because this is the first time in this situation, more than 100 plus people in the State Department have resigned, right? So that consciousness has increased to a very, very great extent. What do we do now? You know, as citizens of this country, as residents of this country, and as Muslims, etc. I don't know. I don't know. I know two things, however. One, I'm not going to lose hope. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep talking, however long it takes until I die, against injustice, regardless of who does it, where it happens, and who does it, right? That's number one. Number two, there are some tools and resources we have. March 5th is primary elections in California and everywhere else. Our brothers and sisters in Michigan have showed the power of electorate. More than 100,000 people, Muslims, Arabs, Christians, and others, have written in uncommitted. Now, frankly, I'm speaking in my personal capacity, so I'm completely fine, and Masjid is not liable for this conversation. I know what Trump does. I know my enemy. It's better if I know my enemy and deal with the enemy than with a friend who is worse than an enemy. So don't tell me that, you know, you have a better choice between the two evils. No, both are evil incarnate, right? So I rather have Trump as my president, because I know what he's going to do, what he's going to say, how he's going to treat me. I'm fine with that. I'll stand up and do whatever I can. But Malcolm X said something very beautiful, and this is we just finished the Black History Month. He has said something to the effect, you don't put a dagger 9 inches in my back, take out 3 inches and say it's progress. Still hurting me, right? So the tool that you do have on March 5th is to write uncommitted, or write Free Palestine, or write Biden go to hell, whatever that you write. I'm going to write too, something similar. I'm not going to vote for him, neither in primary, nor in general, nor ever. If my heart moves, I might even vote for Trump, because then at least I know who I'm going to deal with and what's going to happen in this country. So those are the two things I have. Outside of that, I don't know. What the Palestinian brothers and sisters are going to do, that I also know. I've been to Palestine several times since I was banned in 2017, since after I did not get to go because I can't go. Prior to that, I went several times. And I know the spirit of these people. They are not going to give up until they are completely liberated. And through their liberation, many other countries and many other societies will liberate also. I know that for a fact. And that's why I respect them so much, that they are the defenders of our deen, of our conscience, of humanity, in its most brutal form that's unleashed on them. But yet they stand up and they keep standing. I don't know what else I can add. I'll pause for a few minutes. If there are any specific questions, I'll be happy to or try to answer. And then I'll share with you the presentation that my organization that I work for, because we have received over the course of last 4 or 5 months, at least 20 plus people for mental health counseling, those who are emotionally distraught. Some are fired, some are struggling with other issues and so on. These are people, some are Muslim, some are not. And their primary cause is the genocide that's unfolding. Some are distraught because what they see there, some are distraught because they don't know what else can they do here. And therefore they're emotionally disturbed. They need support, they need help. We as Muslims, we as men particularly, we are macho. No, I am totally fine. No, you're not fine. None of us are fine. Let's face it, let's admit that honestly. There is no weakness in that. Your manhood is not going to become little less, God forbid, if you say, yes, I am hurt, and I feel pain, and I need to find ways to support myself. And as I said earlier, to repeating myself, for our children, frankly. Maybe you are and we are somehow managing to do this, but our children. I am 99.9% sure our children are impacted. They may not say this. And unless we take the initiative in helping them out through conversations, through other ways, and I'll share some ideas, we would not be able to quite help them out. Brother Amir?
Yeah, my question is, why are Muslims reacting now? This has been happening. This is nothing new. The United States is an occupier. The indigenous people are occupied. So when it comes to Palestine, it's a big deal. What about the indigenous people? People move here and act like what happened to the indigenous people? They moved them off a reservation. They totally took their land. They murdered them. They massacred them. Thanksgiving was a massacre. 400 people murdered. They cut their heads off. So how can Muslims come to a country like this and pretend that that didn't happen? And now with Palestine, all of a sudden everybody's awoke. This is nothing new. What they did to African Americans, we're still dealing with the psychological ramifications. Today, after 400 years, we're starting to talk about mental health. This is a long process. It's not going to end in the next couple of years. It's gonna take some praying, some fighting, some writing. I went and heard Mayor Bass the other night. They had a Black Lives Matter function, and she came and spoke at the rally, at the function. And so the issue of Palestine came up, and she said specifically, I'm not going to take a position on this situation. So you would ask yourself, why would a black woman, what we've been through, she knows the history, because when people are dealing with their livelihood, when they're dealing with trying to move up, when they're dealing with the simulation, you're not going to get the look at this room. How come nobody's here? Because we're apathetic. This happened with Syria, this happened with Iraq, this happened with Libya, this happened with Sudan. Look at the Muslims. We're apathetic. We think Allah's going to give us victory, and we can't even show up. There's not even 100 people in here. We're talking about the most serious thing that we've seen in 100 years, and we don't even have 100 people in the room.
Yeah. No, you're right. I totally concur with that, and that was precisely my topic this afternoon today also, right? So it's true, and that's why I think, we need to figure out how do we deal with this long term for generations, and you're right. I mean, the trauma continues. I am no fan of, or I wouldn't sugarcoat that this is a quote unquote country of who cares for humanity. No, it's not. It's a brutal regime that we are in, and it's an empire. And I mentioned this. All empires sooner or later got to go, and this too will go. The role that we have to play as people of conscience, as Muslims, I believe, is to do our best in our capacity. Each one of, I wouldn't blame anyone. Each one of us have a role to play to the extent that we can in our personal life, in our professional life, in our communal life, to do all that we can, and that's all we can do really. We will not necessarily be able to change things today, but we can do something. Not doing is not an option. Yeah. So let me see if I can talk about this. So I work for an organization called South Asian Network. It's a nonprofit org that serves people in need in 4 different areas. One of them is the mental health counseling, mental health therapy and group therapy or individual counseling to folks who are traumatized because of a variety of reasons, including domestic violence, sexual abuse, and things of that nature. And then we have our legal division that supports people with their case management, their cases, immigration, citizenship, petitions, and so on and so forth. And lastly, provide support to low-income and no-income folks with a variety of public benefits programs, whether it's in the area of healthcare, whether in the area of in-house care or transportation, jobs and stuff of that nature. You're more than welcome to grab after a brochure and just keep it with you. And this presentation, my colleague, who is a mental health therapist, licensed mental health therapist, did this presentation to another Muslim community who asked for it, and I just wanted to repeat that here to at least lift up some aspects of it for your reflection. Yeah, so it's a stigma. We don't talk about this, as I mentioned. Nobody wants to talk about mental health in our community. Nobody wants to talk about domestic violence in our community. We are angels. We don't beat our wives and mothers and women. We do. And I know for a fact now, I used to think that, yeah, that's true, but since I started working with, now I have data in Southern California, of the Muslim community to a great extent. So we do these things. We are human beings. We have weaknesses. We are bad people. Some are bad people, not everyone, right? So we just need to acknowledge that. And mental health is exactly that. I don't want to expose this. I don't want this to be known because of A, B, C, and variety of reasons. So it has just 4 components essentially: a quick brief introduction about the organ and what really is mental illness, how do we find that out, and what can we do, and what's the support areas. So this is just about the organization that I already talked about. And here's an example that they give. I want you all, for next 2 minutes, close your eyes and think of a person who you used to go to in times of trauma. And hold that thought about that person in your mind. Jazakallah khair. So I'm sure we all may have thought. Would anybody like to volunteer who you thought of and why?
Allah.
No, I said person. And Allah is, of course, goes without saying that when we are helpless, we go there. And that's our ultimate savior. Right? I'll give you an example. Go ahead, please.
My mother,
Your mother. Why?
because she and my father were married for 11 years. My father left her and moved us into the housing projects. And my mother was from Mississippi. She wasn't familiar with the housing projects. They didn't have generations that lived like that. So she had to take care of 4 children by herself on a very small budget. And what made us feel safe was the way we trusted her integrity.
Right.
If she wasn't going to take a job that she had to compromise herself, when she took jobs, she would make sure that the hours were conducive for watching her children. So she made us feel safe. We trusted that her integrity.
Right. So those are the attributes: trust and integrity, that in times of great difficulty, you go to this person is going to take care of you. Right? You feel safe in this space. Anybody else would like to share? Pardon me? That's fine. So I mean, stuff like this. People who, we all need somebody. If I were to say, I don't need anybody in times of difficulty, I'm lying to myself, period. I may express that need of support in different ways. Sometimes vocally, sometimes in writing, sometimes through anger, sometimes through just being too jovial for no reason, etc., etc. We all express that, we just don't know, right? Our spouses, are a great deal of support, right? You have this person who are garments to each other, as Quran says. You confide, you share, you seek support from each other. And the moment, the reason why this question was asked is, hold this thought because this will help you later. So what really is mental wellness and why is this important, right? It is a situation, it is mental, emotional, psychological, intellectual, all of that. If I'm not in that state, I really can't perform in my normal life, course of life and activity. And it does not only affect the way we think, feel and act, but also how we handle stress. You know, when we see people sometimes unnecessarily, high strung, we know that something is going on. They just are not saying this. And it's not just emotional, by the way. It's combination of all emotional, psychological, and even our social well-being. So this is the current data provided by Institute of Social Policy and Understanding, ISPU, out of Michigan, which is a conglomerate of social scientists, psychologists, psychiatrists, who now are seeing existing data, high rates of adjustment disorders, anxiety, stress, mood disorders, and so on. This is for the Muslims, by the way. This is not produced by John Doe in the society. That may be more or less, I don't know, but this is about Muslims. Our Imams, a large number of them, are unable to do the job that they actually need to do, and instead doing this job of supporting families, talking to them, helping them out with their stresses of all kinds and so on. Not that they can do or they shouldn't do, but it is taking so much of their time. More people are going there to them for seeking support. Up to 95% of them are spending time in that. Amazing. So the 5% time, basically they're leading salat 5 times a day, and then else they're doing this. This is the data for the last 5 months, by the way, 4 or 5 months. ISPU called Imams throughout the country in different states and asked questions and gathered the data and provided this to us. This wasn't the case pre-October 7th. So what are the common assumptions, right, in our culture, Muslim culture, regardless of where we come from? A combination of the spiritual, this is min Allah, and I can't do anything about it. No, you can. Or this is a test or a punishment. I may have done something wrong, and this is why Allah is punishing me now. These are the assumptions, right, about mental wellness and stuff. I'm possessed. In South Asian culture, this is very common. If you pick up the Urdu language newspaper, ethnic newspaper, tabloids basically, they throw at the stores, nobody reads them, but you will see advertisements in there. I can unpossess you if you give me X dollars, Y fee, blah, blah, blah. I am an expert in that. Shaitan has possessed you, and that's why this is causing you. It's cultural stuff, but it exists. And sometimes some, folks will say, it happened, just keep dua, make dua, everything will go away. No, everything will not go away. It gets compounded. I'll give an example of a masjid in Southern California. When I used to be the executive director at Islamic Shura Council, a masjid called me and said, can you sit with some young people and mentor them or guide them and stuff? I said, sure, no problem. I did. Group of people, about 12, 13 young men, between 18 and 24, 25. And I asked them, I said, look, I don't know you, you don't know me. Tell me one problem that's bothering you and you are unable to find an answer for that. This is in the context of pray away, things will go away context, right? So the kids were a little bit shy first, and then one raised hand and said, Ammu, I have something to share. I said, please. He said, I don't have one problem, I have 3 problems. And then he goes, I am going to bet $1 that half of the people who are here who are not speaking up also have the same problem. So I asked them, what's your problem? He said, my first problem is sex. My second problem is sex. My third problem is sex. I have a choice of a white girl or a black girl or a Latino girl or a Desi girl or a Muslim girl, etc., at my school. And I'm a high school senior. And I don't know what to do. So he said, I went to Imam and he said, make dua, everything will go away. Mental health problem, pray, it will go away. No, it does not. Cultural shame, embarrassment, what will people say? Nah, mental health is not really a thing, it's a thing that passes away. No, it does not. Right? Or the therapist you go to will put their belief on me and may change me. So these are some of the assumptions, cultural and spiritual, that exist in our community. So Muslim youths, I mean, I'm a grandparent now. Me and my wife, my family raised 4, alhamdulillah, good kids. But I know what challenges they have gone through, and I'm sure we all have kids. If you don't have kids, your nephews and nieces. There are all kinds of challenges, drug, sex, gender identity. These are real issues. These are not myths that it's happening to them and not happening to us, our community. These are real stuff that exists today. And same is true with adults also. If they are not grounded spiritually, then every little thing creates and compounds your emotional and mental well-being. And that impacts, obviously, spirituality, right? I'm praying and I'm mad. Have an opportunity to do something good and I'm doing otherwise, etc., etc. I'm just not in proper place, basically. So what do I look for? In the area of depression, continuous, continuous bad mood. I'm always angry, I'm always irritated, I'm always anxious, I'm never comfortable, never at peace. And you can see that in my language, in my demeanor, in the way I walk, the way I talk, the way I work even, rough, tough, constant, perpetual. It is going to impact us physically and spiritually. And then some are, of course, the scientifically proved, you're not eating well, loss of appetite, or you're overeating, double cheeseburger with a big bag of fries and a big Coke bottle, and I'm still hungry. Or I get that food and I ate 2 bites and I toss away. These are symptoms that something is not right with the person. Decreased energy, low energy. You slept good 8 hours, you got up in the morning and you're still feeling tired. And the worst is this sense of helplessness and hopelessness. That is the worst, right? When you give up, there's nothing I can do about it, which is very, very bad. The other area is anxiety. Feeling restless, irritable, difficulty in concentrating anything. Even for a few minutes, just reading some stuff or watching some stuff, you are unable to really concentrate. Unable to relax, difficulty sleeping, constant worry. Even when you have the food, when you have a job, when you have a car, when you have some bank balance, you're still worried. And gosh, some months ago I was traveling and a lady sitting next to me in the plane, we exchanged greetings and hello, hi and stuff, and she asked me what do I do, and I asked her what she does. She said, I'm a attorney, a criminal defense attorney. I said, great, that's a pretty tough job, isn't it? She said, yeah, that's a very tough job. And I said, well, attorneys make a lot of money, so I'm sure you're content. And she, in the matter of a few minutes, started crying, literally. She said, no, I'm not happy. I lie every day. I defend people who should not be defended. I make lots of money, but I can't sleep. I take sleeping pills, etc., etc., etc. So we see sometimes that people have everything, but yet they really are not are not content. And the only option really is when we see these symptoms of depression, of anxiety, of helplessness, of hopelessness, of irritability, and low energy, and mood disorder, and anxiety, and so on. Well, it's an illness. It's a mental illness. Seek support. I think we are not think. We do believe that we are required to take care of ourselves, right? Physically, emotionally, spiritually. It's an amana that we are blessed with, and we need to take care of it ourselves. So now, talk to the first. So there are few options that are suggested here. One is talk to a loved one. So that mother or a person like her who I can seek support, who I can have that comfort and safe place and space without judgment, who is not judging me. Oh, you should have done this, otherwise this would not have happened. No, that person is just listening to you, lending you ear, going for a walk, having a cup of coffee or whatever. But in that safe space, you are leaning on this person to say, I'm going through this stuff and I'm just listening. It's a huge, huge, huge support. And that person could be your biological relative or a friend or a Muslim brother, or I would even go to the extent he or she may not necessarily be a Muslim either, in our case. And there are examples where you can seek that support. Two is, really serious. Just go to a therapist and talk to them. They are trained to figure out what's going on. A client, we call a client when a person walks into our office. She said, I'm going to commit suicide on Thursday, but I just wanted to come in and say hello to you guys. This is how she came in the office. And we directed her to the therapist. She said, great, Thursday you're going to die, and we will see what happens, but let's sit down, have a cup of coffee and talk. One thing led to the other to the other. Not only that she didn't kill herself, but now she speaks about the suicide prevention in public spaces, why and what caused her personal story. So this is really an illness, which is treatable illness. That's the good news, provided you have the proper support available to you. Third, for people like us who are in public spaces, we need to raise awareness and not shy about it. I'll tell you another example. I gave a khutbah on domestic violence. I don't know how many of you have ever heard a khutbah on domestic violence. I'm going to bet $1 that nobody gave a khutbah on domestic violence. Because no, we are good people. This is what happened in a masjid in Southern California. I gave khutbah on domestic violence. Salat finished, and as typically happens, we are standing outside. Somebody came to me and said, a sister wants to talk to you. In most cases, people think that whoever is speaking from the mimbar is the imam. I said, no, I'm not an imam, I'm just a khatib today, and the sister should go and talk to the imam. She said, no, she wants to talk to you. I said, sure. And then I go to the sister, I said, Assalamu alaikum, what can I do for you? She goes, and I'm verbatim repeating this. She said, Jazakallah khair for the khutbah topic that you spoke today. Assalamu alaikum. She walked away. I am willing to bet my life she's a victim of domestic violence. And she belongs to a masjid in Southern California. That's just one instance. There are many others. So talking about this increases, not to shame anybody, but simply say, hey, this exists. We are human beings. We have weaknesses. We have shortcomings. And we are no different than others, and this thing exists, and we need to deal with it. And I think it's greater responsibility on places of worship, because this is a safe space that we can talk about this. And lastly, of course, having open conversation and communication in family. My kids are grown up now, and I don't have much control on them because they have their own calendar, they have their own schedule. I need to get an appointment with them to sit down and talk. But when we were young, they were young, when they were 6, 7 years old, we instituted a practice in the house. Every Friday evening, there's a family meeting. Just like we go in the office, you have a board meeting, or in an organization, you have a staff meeting. we used to have a family meeting. Everybody reports what they did last week and everybody tells what they are going to do next week. And we try to find ways to support each other, to help each other, right? And what it does is, whether or not they say or they don't, and they are bluffing and saying things that they are not going to, doesn't matter. What happens is, it opens up the communication channel. Everybody has to say something. And in that process, you're building rapport and relationship with them. And then when they do have a difficulty, chances are that they'll come talk to you rather than talking to John Doe outside. And that advice may be completely different and wrong and harmful than the advice that you would have given them, you see. So to develop that environment where your own children and your family members feel safe, not afraid, to have that open conversation and communication, which allows then you to help them out as and when they need. So that's really all I have for this, and if there are any questions, clarifications, I'll try to answer you, inshallah.
Those slides, are they created by someone from not a Muslim?
No, yeah, so this is created by a therapist who works for us. She's a Muslim, so she developed this.
So why isn't like Islam and Allah and
Bec-
should be at the center of where do we
True. Yeah, so two reasons primarily. So the same presentation is also, or same conversation is also given to non-Muslims. Those who are, I just happen to be here today, so I am giving. And we give in temples, in gurdwaras, in churches, in synagogues, and so on. Right? We are a secular organization. It's not a Muslim organization or an Islamic organization. Muslims happen to be working there, such as non-Muslims as well. So it's a purely secular org that helps and supports anybody regardless of faith and tradition and religion. Yeah.
So, contracting therapists, how they get the access? Is there a phone number we can?
Yeah. So you're welcome to take this, and it has contact information, and people can call and get the intake, the first intake, the intake. So I don't know who the clients are. I'm the executive director, but I don't know. I wouldn't know. It's only between the therapist and the individual. Some is done virtually, some is done in person, and so on. So they are directly coming. So they can call and set up an appointment. And all of our services are free. Doesn't cost you a dime. So if you know somebody, or somebody knows somebody who needs help, then they can avail this service. So it's a community-based organization with no fee or anything for anybody.
I have another question, but I wait for everybody. There's time at last.
Sure. Yeah, Akhi. Wali.
So what I took from the presentation basically is majority of Muslims, they turn to imams, and leaders. Has there been any program or formation for imams to take care, or how to do this type of situation?
Yeah, very good question. Very good question. I'm not a therapist, right? Imam is not a therapist. Imam is a religious scholar. They went to school to learn Quran, Hadith, history, and then they teaches us. This is an extra burden on them. And this is a responsibility now of the Muslim community in North America to really start to either provide some basic training to our imams on this issue, on these matters, or in masajid or in the region have Muslim therapists available to masajid, one of the two, right? So if somebody comes to the imam doesn't say, go away. They try as best as they can to really help them out.
What I'm trying to say, has the imams been receptive to
True. Not all, obviously, sometimes some imams think, I'm good. Imams are also human beings, frankly. I mean, we dump so much on them also. different masajid are in different ways. I mean, I know as back of my hand how Imams operate and how masajid operate, because this is what I did for the last 20 years in this community here. We expect world from them. That's unfair. We expect a world from them, and that's not fair. They have certain skills, and those skills are extremely important, and but we add a whole lot of them, and sometimes they are unable to help, and they do whatever. But so there are some training programs now that are being offered. Materials are being offered. More is quote unquote Islamically designed for imams, particularly, or faith leaders, to increase this awareness. But it's a long road and a new area, frankly. Oh, sorry.
Was there ever any historical relevance to this in the Seerah of the Prophet Islam or any of the following generations?
Say again, I'm sorry.
Was there ever any historical relevance in this? Because the Prophet Islam is for all time.
Sure.
So in his time, was there mental illness or anything? Because they were fighting jihad, they were losing family, they were being kicked out of Mecca. They had, I mean, you look at what we're going through, theirs is 10 times worse.
Sure.
So was there some type of healing that needed to take place or that did take place? Maybe it wasn't labeled healing, but in the Seerah of the Prophet Islam, was there that?
Yeah. So the answer is yes. There's a whole lot of historical data. Psychoanalysis actually, several, quote unquote, in the golden age of Islam, was invented by Muslims. How to analyze the psychological impact on a human being from a spiritual perspective. And that gave birth to a variety of subset cultures now that exist in the Muslim world. I know of South Asia and North Africa and other places. It takes different forms, but there is, historical data is this, and there are a lot of books written. I mean, if you do just Google search Islam and mental health or mental well-being, you will find some very serious scholarly material that is written by various scholars who are in this field, specialty.
I asked the question because everything that the Europeans are teaching, they stole from Islam in the first place. So their psychology, their philosophy, their sociology, everything that they have. I grew up in this country and I know when I became Muslim, when I would go to them and I would ask them, then I realized that everything they got from Islam in the first place. But Muslims are so backwards, they think that we're learning something from these people when they stole it from us in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, partly true. I mean, I respectfully like to make a friendly amendment to that, which is, I mean, there was a lot of cross-pollination or cross-learning from different cultures and civilizations. Also, we also stole from others, and we didn't steal. We embraced it because it aligned with our value system. So there is a lot of cross-pollination in the cultures and civilizations as well. But yeah, I mean, the bottom line is yes. Within the historical Islam, there is a significant amount of scholarship related to mental health and mental well-being. Look, I don't want to keep you away, here for too long, but Jawdat said by 9 o'clock we must leave. I have a simple request to you. If you like what you saw, if you want to just, where is Brother Shakir? He was here a little while. Maybe Rushdi, you can help me. There you are. I recruited him when I came here that he is going to help me distribute this to the people and have them fill it out, if you don't mind.
Just give it to everybody.
Yeah, just a sheet and a pen. And you're more. I leave this at the masjid also, so if you know somebody, you are more than welcome to distribute this. Oh, you also had a question last week. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Last Thursday,
Yeah.
mental health therapy was had anxiety attacks and depression from working with the years to say this last week.
Jazakallah khair, brother. Thank you for the presentation.
Inshallah, inshallah. We will. Thank you so much as always for your hospitality.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't get to the second part.
In a setup like majority is from the country Sri Lanka, but my town itself is like almost 100%. So in
Shukran, my brother. Sadiq?
Sadiq.
Pleasure meeting
Knows
with
me.
you. I'll give you a salam.
So many times, inshallah.
Thank you. If there is anything we can do, don't hesitate.
Yeah, after this, finishing with these people,
Yeah,
I would like to,
absolutely. You have our number and everything.
I have it.
So I'm third in country. So the general and we go there. Not really sure what's but I agree. We very much accept our in general, if there's no accessibility for communication among different levels of age, the uncles and aunts and friends and whatnot, then this part maybe does not seriously come out very true. But I think that's what I saw. And is that acceptable thinking?
Very much so, very much so.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and you can ask grandpa, you can ask the uncle is there for this one. And then the other thing I want to ask is, I lived in the last 60 Chef used to cover shows for Imam and Richardson Masjid for almost 20 years in Malaysia now. His daughter is listening. So,
Thank you so much for coming.
there's a church, Korean church open close to Masjid and Hawthorne. So they meet the leaders and they have so much staff and he's introducing him this my vehicle and all that. So he's got coffee service. So Dallas Fort for Metroplex. For every call, one man have to answer. And he don't even have a vehicle. And here this church, what he's talking about himself. So my question is for the imams, for the additional burden they carry, are they being taken care of? So what land that is they himself? That's my concern. And this is one of us teaching. One of us students. He said, teaching me not how much to put in once can I leave almost 100,000. You know how many teachers in their schools understand? You can count them together. They are not paid well, so they had to go to Japan or some other job. Teaching them. What was it? If they don't have kids, then we will lose one of the big resources. And then we can strain them with children. So I mean, you already did the work on that. So maybe inshallah one day.
Yeah, that's all we can do, right? We do our best for others to follow and then do a better job than we do.
Yeah, but those people will be cared. Most probably like for those teachers, nobody will speak.
Yeah.
But they are the one continue to serve. Nobody will be worrying about paying them more. It never happened. No man. We have many schools also
Yeah.
in the community itself, but that's the sad part. If you don't have
Correct.
you have another big issue.
Oh, thank you. we are funded by